Welcome to From Beyond The Paign, an Illinois basketball podcast. I'm Cody. You can follow me on Twitter at Cody_CHGO and on TikTok. This is finally, guys, the Illini therapy session. The final show of the 2023-24 season. Illinois lost 77-52 to UConn last night. Obviously, you guys already know that. If you're watching that, you already know that. But finally sitting down to talk about this game. I'm actually kind of glad that I wasn't able to talk about this game right after the game because I was just so brutally destroyed inside. But I've had a day to think about it, a day to digest. So let's digest some more, get it all out. Would love to know your thoughts on the season, on the game, on how you're feeling right now, what this season means to you, all these things. But if you're watching on Facebook, on my Twitter account, or if you're here on YouTube, hit that link to come to the YouTube channel and hit the like button, please, and subscribe if you haven't. The goal was to hit the 500 subscribers this year. Came up a little bit short, but that's okay. It's probably my own fault. If I would have been able to go live after every one of these March Madness games, perhaps I might have found some new listeners. So I'll take the blame on that. All right. But either way, if you're watching and you don't subscribe, please come to the YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button and hit that like button. Would mean a lot. I'm going to keep doing some content on here during baseball season. Of course, we'll talk about the transfer portal and the recruiting class and all that stuff in weeks to come. Might talk a little bit about it on at the end of this podcast or in the middle of it. But overall, I just want to kind of look at this year's team. Obviously, we can start with the game. We can talk about after it, whatever you guys want to do. Again, let me know in the chat how you feel. All right. So I'm going to start with the game. All right. Illinois was in this game. Illinois at halftime trailed by 5 points. They had their lowest total of points at halftime for the season. I'm pretty sure. I'm don't let the facts get in the way of a good story, but I'm pretty sure it's easy to say that 23 points at halftime is the lowest total they've had this season. It is one of the worst offensive performances I've seen for the entire game, but also in one half while also still being in the game. Yeah. But I guess that's why UConn has one of the best defenses in the country. They have one of the best offenses in the country, and you're down 5 points at halftime and just get absolutely blitzed in the second half. That 30-0 run was absolutely brutal to watch. It was like, I don't even know how to describe it in a way. It was almost just like being bullied, like by like your older brother or something like that. Like UConn was just in another type of realm than Illinois. I've watched Illinois all season, watched them against some really good teams. They easily could have beat Tennessee. They easily could have beat Marquette. They easily could have beat Purdue both times that they played them. But I'm just being honest, none of those teams were like UConn on Saturday. Anyone who may have questioned UConn just because of how easy their road was to this point, I think those questions, the people with having those questions, those answers, they got their answers, right? UConn, despite the fact that they didn't shoot well in the first half, still managed to still lead. And honestly, even though Illinois was only down 5, I still felt really, really defeated. But yeah, I mean, that's just how good UConn is. So I don't think that I overestimated UConn, I mean, I knew this was going to be a tough game. Illinois was 8.5, 9-point underdogs going into that game, and it was all about just, I don't know, like just playing, rolling the dice, fucking around with destiny, right? Like I didn't have a ton of hope, but I was optimistic. Illinois had been playing really good basketball. The winning the Big Ten tournament. Sure, they got a little bit of luck in the tournament getting to play Duquesne in the second round instead of BYU. But then the way they played against Iowa State, despite the fact that they missed all those free throws, you felt like they were playing well enough to maybe compete with UConn. But when I think about some brutal losses in my Illini fandom, obviously I think about the loss to UNC in the national title in 2005 and how Sean May just brutally destroyed my inner being as a kid and reminded me that we can't have nice things. But Donovan Clingan was on another level. Illinois shot 0 of 19 against him. Like anytime one of their players went up against him, they shot 0 of 19 when he was guarding them. That just ain't going to get it done, brother. Just not going to get it done. I also thought, it was pretty clear. I was getting vibes from the first time Illinois played Purdue at Mackey Arena at the beginning of the game with Ty Rodgers. Ty Rodgers could drive. He could have taken as many threes as he wanted. UConn was going to let him do it, and that's what every team does with him all season, right? But I got the same vibes. It just wasn't going to be a tie game, and I felt like Brad Underwood left him on the court way too long to start. And once they took him off, their offense actually started playing better. Marcus Damask was able to go to booty ball, and he started cooking. And Illinois, after starting being they were down 9-0 early. The first 4 minutes of the game, they couldn't score a point. Once Ty Rodgers gets off the court, Illinois went on a little bit of a run, got back into the game. Thankfully, largely because UConn couldn't hit a three. And the only person really scoring for them was Clingan because Illinois couldn't guard him. Like Coleman Hawkins couldn't guard him, and I was fearful of that. But I thought if he guarded him and let him get his, but didn't allow UConn to get those threes, that they could hang around. And in some ways that kind of worked, like happened in the first half. They couldn't hit their threes, but he was owning them inside. It's just that Illinois could not get it going offensively at all. And Terrence Shannon Jr. had his worst game of the season. This is worse than the game in Champaign against Purdue. 2 of 12, 8 points. He missed a couple free throws. There were, 2 free throws in the first half that I felt like that were huge. Every point, when you miss free throws and this late in the season, like they're all huge, right? Couldn't hit any threes. They were 6 of 23. I felt like they didn't shoot enough threes considering how they were trying, like their game plan, it felt like. I don't know. The 30-0 run in the second half was brutal. I just felt like UConn it really was, they were playing in a different league, So, that's my biggest thing is Brad going back to Ty. Like I felt like the moment you took Ty Rodgers off the court in that game, that you just can't go back to him. You just couldn't. And I'm a huge Ty guy, but like the matchup just doesn't serve him in this game. It just wasn't. It reminded me a lot of the first time they played Purdue at Mackey Arena, right? And Ty Rodgers in this game, 0 of 5 from the field, 0 points, 3 rebounds. He tried to counter him, like he himself tried to counter what UConn was trying to do by getting to the basket, taking a few drives, but he was going up against Clingan every time, and he just couldn't finish. And I mean, he's 7'2", so like it's one of those things. Ty Rodgers is a great college basketball player, and I think one of the biggest things he needs to work on in this offseason is a jump shot, man. I mean, if teams aren't going to try and do this against Illinois, that's just something he's got to do, man. And the thing is that I've seen high school tape of him taking jump shots and them going in. I don't understand why he just doesn't shoot the ball at all. It's like he's Ben Simmons out there in some ways. I felt like with Rodgers out, I thought Goody, gave them good minutes. He didn't hit a shot, didn't score, but I did think he was doing well in the rebounding game. He got some big rebounds there in the first half to get Illinois some possessions. But overall, I mean, offensively, they didn't get much off the bench at all. They just, I thought there was a moment where Gibbs Lawhorn had an open three, pump fake, drove, went to the basket. Think his shot got blocked by Klingon. Like, I felt like we saw that so many times where they had an open three, and instead of shooting it, they drove the basket. And I don't know. And it also didn't help. And as someone who is a Brad defender all the time, and you guys know this, what Brad said in like the TV timeout when he did the interview with whoever on TBS and said that they're going to keep attacking him, whatever. We're going to do it 100 times or whatever. Like, I didn't like that personally. I really didn't. And I guess it shows the preparation for this game from Illinois because, with just a day to prepare, right? Because I feel like if maybe if Brad had a week to prepare for this or 4 days to prepare for this, I feel like the Purdue game could have been very useful information for this game. And I feel like they went into this game and played it just like they would have played Purdue the first time. I felt like the second time against Purdue, Illinois did some things differently and they were able to play better in that game. And I know they still lost that game. Braden Smith hit that huge three, right? They honestly kind of beat themselves at the end of that game, and that's why they lost. But it's almost like they could have just looked at some of that tape from the first time they played Purdue at Mackey Arena this year and try and learn from that game and take that into this game against UConn, because obviously a lot of UConn's success comes from having a 7'2" guy in the middle of the paint. And I just felt like Illinois we're just going to try and take it to the rim every single time because that's what we do, right? That's what he said. You can do that with almost any team, but whenever a team has a 7'2" guy or a 7'5" guy or 7'6", however fucking tall Zach Edey is, you got to do some different things, man. I just felt like Illinois didn't do that. So all in all, the game plan just didn't work. And when you lose 77-52, that's easy for anyone to say. But that's like my biggest gripe. The fact that Ty Rodgers, even at only playing 8 minutes, got way too much time. By the time that they were done playing him, it was over. It was over. So didn't adjust quick enough on that. I touched on Shannon having the worst game of his career. It's sad in some ways because it's like the last show we just did, I'm talking about how this guy's the greatest Illini ever. And in some ways, I still think he arguably is. It's just that he just doesn't have the March success of a D Brown or Darren Williams, Luther Head, Kendall Gill, Nick Anderson. Like, those are all guys who took a team to the Final Four. As far as talent, as far as ceiling of what they could be in the NBA, perhaps, as far as an actual basketball player, I think you can argue Terrence Shannon Jr. as one of the greatest Illini's ever, for sure, right? I'm sad that this is the game that he had to end his career because he was on such a tear. All the credit to UConn. UConn got him out of the transition game. For some reason, they drove him off the 3-point line. He took 1 3. He'd been shooting the 3 ball well in this postseason run. he just felt it from watching on TV. It felt like he was he was definitely a lot more passive in the second half because I felt like he was trying to get other guys involved at the beginning of the second half because he felt like they were trying to take him away from the game anyway. But he had to find a way to put the ball in the basket at some point, and he just never did. Who else? I mean, Coleman, 5 points, 4 rebounds, 1 of 7 from 3, 2 of 10 from the field. I mean, this is not great. I said in the last show that Illinois was going to need to have all 3 of these guys. We're going to have the game of their lives. And for Marcus Damask to still put up 17, considering how that game went, like he showed up. Again, there was a point in this game where Illinois was cooking offensively, and it was basically him. Booty ball did work in the first half when Donovan Clingan wasn't on the floor. They couldn't get him in foul trouble, though, and the refs weren't blowing the whistle. I will say a few times that Illinois attacked. There were some no calls that they probably deserved. That should have been calls, right? Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, even if the game plan that I'm thinking that they should have done, I'm still not sure if Illinois is even in that game because UConn's that good. They're that deep. They have more talent than Illinois did, and it was very clear. Dan Hurley is a great coach. They prepared pretty well for that game, right? It's disappointing, man. It's a disappointing loss. So let's go to the chat and then we'll move on. That's pretty much my thoughts on the game itself, on the Elite Eight game. Again, it's a game that I'm going to mentally try to forget because the season was so fun for the most part. There were ups and downs. There was frustration. We have the Terrence Shannon saga, off the court stuff. We have, losing at Penn State in the dumbest way possible, but winning at Wisconsin, beating Northwestern by 30 at home, beating FAU at Madison Square Garden. There were a lot of fun moments from this season, and that's what I want to remember. And I don't think anyone thought that this team would get this deep going into this season. I really don't. And if anyone who did, I think you're just someone who expects Final Four or just puts Final Four or bust aspirations out every single year. And I'm sorry, Brad Underwood can call this program elite all he wants. I do think it's in path to be that. Elite, it's a form. The way I think of it is a form of elite with the expectations that I have, and my expectations are to be one of the top 10 or one of the top 2-3 teams in the Big Ten. Get to the second weekend and then see what happens. Those are my expectations. That's all I was really hoping for this year, was to just get to a second weekend, because it hadn't happened in 19 years. Whenever you get deep enough, when you do that and then you're playing with house money, beat Iowa State the way they did, you get hopeful. You get a little greedy, right? That's what happened. But I think overall, when you step out a little bit and look at the entire season as a whole, I mean, this season was incredible. So let's go to the chat. Terry E., welcome back, man. Thank you again for always leaving comments. Great run. You have to remember that getting this deep in the tournament really helps build the future. That's true. Should help recruiting, should help Illinois in the transfer portal coming up. That is probably the biggest thing that excites me. Again, you're one of the last eight teams to still be playing. This is, I hope this isn't the last time we're in the Elite Eight in the Brad Underwood era. My brother Gabe is in the chat. What's up, brother? What's up, bro? It's just in all Illinois made me feel a way I hadn't felt about sports game in a long time. I'm telling you, man, like this is what you're at your age, like college basketball can be really fun whenever you follow a team like Illinois and on a run like this. And that's what the 04-05 team did for me. So I hope you get to see many more runs like this for years to come. Thanks for hanging out, brother. Miles, just joined. What do you think of the Purdue game? I think Purdue and UConn is going to be a great national title game. That's for sure. Now, if they lose to fucking NC State, I will have to give my man Greg Braggs a call and tell him Taco Bell is on me. Purdue is a great team. The fact that they're in the Final Four and Illinois was so close both times they played them this year to beating them shows that, to me, it's no fluke that Illinois got as far as they did in the tournament. Fighting Illini 23. Welcome back, man. Thank you for being here. If Shannon or Hawkins go to the Bulls, that would be crazy. Bro, Shannon, Lincoln Park High School, Chicago kid, put him with Io on the team. Don't let me dream about it. I was listening to Illini Inquirer podcast on my way home today. I was out in the burbs last night watching this game with some people, and when I was listening to them coming back home today, they kind of said, Hawkins probably a second round pick, two-way contract. I think he could fit really well on an NBA roster with the way he plays. Obviously, like he sometimes lets his emotions get the best of him. Rubs the fans the wrong way in certain aspects. But he plays hard and he can shoot the three. He can defend almost any position that's not a true five. And I think that plays at the NBA level. So I think Hawkins probably has the best chance to hit the Bulls just because he might not even get drafted. But if Terrence finds a way to end up on the Bulls and he's paired with Io, that'd be fucking wild and awesome. I'm here for it, man. I just want every Illini to be on the Bulls. That way it gives me a reason to watch the Bulls, because the Bulls don't give me a reason to watch the Bulls. Matt, yesterday's game, Illinois was the definition of insanity. Keep doing the same thing. Big expecting a different result. For some reason, Illinois kept attacking UConn's big guys, despite him shutting down Illinois every time. Yeah, no, that's what I was kind of saying. 0 of 19 against Klingon. I think that was the stat that I saw surface on social media. It's absolutely frustrating that they didn't change earlier in the game, adjust earlier in the game. And listen, that's always been a Brad Underwood flaw. That's what his detractors always say. I think if he had a couple more days to prepare for this game, maybe things go different. I know Ty only played 8 minutes, but fuck, the way that how bad they were offensively with Ty on the floor for those 8 minutes alone was enough for for that to be the difference against UConn. I feel like in the beginning of the second half, Ty shouldn't have even started the second half, to be honest. Like I don't think he should have played the second half. And it has nothing to do with him. I just don't think the matchup was good for him. They needed the spacing. They needed to shoot more threes. The fact that they only shot 23 threes, it's not great. And like whether they miss them or make them, whatever, like that was the only way they were going to be able to get some good offense. The best time that they got any kind of offense going was when Klingon wasn't on the floor, and they just couldn't get him into foul trouble. And that's the only reason I can think of why they were driving to the basket against him, was to try get him in foul trouble. And it just didn't happen. He finished with 1 foul. He got called for 1 foul. And again, they didn't blow the whistle. I'm not. Would I have rather the refs make it about them? No. There's so many times I have yelled and complained about the refs making the game about them, or making a scene play out to a point where we blame the refs. I'd rather see them play, personally, in terms of just watching the game, whether I'm an Illini fan or not. I'd rather them not blow the whistle every damn time down the court. That's just not fun to watch. All right. So Sure, if you want to talk about my Illini fandom and wanting Illinois to win, the best way was to get Klingon off the floor and them just blow the whistle all the time, then sure, fine, yes. But I that's the only reason I can understand or believe to why they would do what they did, is that they were trying to get Klingon in foul trouble and they just didn't blow the whistle against them. And again, there were a few drives I thought Terrence had. Quincy had one where I feel like he tried to dunk on him and it didn't work. Like maybe you could have called a foul there. I don't know. Either way, he had 5 blocks. Like Klingon's gonna be he's gonna be a high draft pick according to, I guess, the scouts, the people. That's what people are saying. Which, he's proved to me yesterday that he's for real. Like he's really fucking good, man. 22 and 10, and he only played 22 minutes. So he scored a point every minute he was on the court. Mo Lester. Man, all everyone is going to talk about is the 30-0 run. Let's get real. Yeah, I mean, the 30-0 run, if I think I saw a tweet that said if they don't allow the 30-0 run, Illinois wins 57-47. All I know is that you can't allow a 30-0 run if you're trying to win a basketball game. I mean, it decided the game. Again, Illinois went into halftime down 5. I had hope at halftime. I legitimately had hope. And hope is a dangerous thing, but they went like 15 minutes without scoring a point. Something like that. It really did decide the game. So, I mean, let's get real. The 30-0 run decided the game, bro. I don't know what you want me to say, Mo. Welcome back, Jay. Love the season. I can always accept a loss, but to give up that 30-0 run and not show up in the second half was tough. And that's kind of my thing. It kind of puts a damper on the entire postseason run. Like, I guess in a way to spin it, it's like, well, at least I just knew they were going to lose and I didn't have to, think about one particular play that didn't happen. They lost by 2 or 3 points at the end of the game, whether it's because the refs didn't blow a whistle or because they missed the shot or, this guy turned it over and I'm going to put the scapegoat that guy, right? Like if it made the loss easier just getting blown out rather than losing by 2 or 3 points, I guess. Like if that's the only spin zone to it for me, like mentally. Of course, I'd rather it had been a close game and it'd be a more respectable loss. And maybe we could look on the season better, right? But yeah, I mean, I'm with you, Jay. Like the way the second half played out was just extremely disappointing. I agree, Matt. The program is relevant again, and it's great to be here. Caitlin, welcome. I didn't expect them to win this game. I just really didn't want it to be so ugly for us. Yeah. I'm really glad I didn't go place any bet on them to cover the 8.5. I just would have felt really dumb, right? I mean, I think that's what most Illini fans are upset about. I don't necessarily think we're upset we lost. I think we're upset that the way they lost. Let's see. Mo, that comment's so dumb, I'm not reading it. Bob, Illinois shouldn't have been in the game or shouldn't have been in the same region as UConn. I mean, sure. I mean, I don't know. That region was super hard for sure to get to the Elite Eight in that region. Of course, again, they were gifted. BYU losing. People said BYU was underseeded. They don't want to play on Sundays for whatever reason. Ends up coming back to haunt them. They lose to Duquesne. Illinois blows out Morehead State in the second half. Let's see. Then they pound Duquesne. Iowa State was a tough one. They pull it out. Iowa State, you could argue, could have been a 1 seed in a different region. So sure, like, I don't know. Like, we were given what we were given, and I felt like getting to the Elite Eight, considering how tough the region was, is fine. Jay, my biggest gripe in this game was Rogers starting in the second half. Kind of baffling. This was not a Rogers game. In the second half, they go on a 7-0 run. Then he starts. Oh, in the first half, they go on a 7-0 run. Then he starts second half, they go on a 10-0 run. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm with you, Jay. I really thought those 8 minutes that Ty Rodgers played kind of decided the game in some aspects, right? Like, it's crazy how 8 minutes can decide something, but they played better with Rodgers off the court and Goody out there for spacing. And I thought, again, like I said earlier, I thought Goody was good on the boards, helped them defensively and on the boards. Just no one can make a shot, right? This is like, it's weird that we're not really talking about the defense this game. We're really talking about the offense. The offense, this is a worst offensive game of the season. Like, I'd argue their offense against Indiana was really bad too. The fact that they pulled that game out was actually incredible. But I mean, this UConn team is obviously so much better than IU, right? I can't think of a worse game offensively for Illinois this year, for sure. Gabe, their lack of offense didn't help either. 17 for 67 from the field is atrocious in itself. Yeah. Yeah, they couldn't hit shit, man. 6 of 23 from the 3-point line. I say that, and I still say they should have shot more threes. They should have done things. The fact that they didn't do enough to try and get Klingon out of the paint was probably Brad's biggest problem, biggest mishap. Thank you. Wow. Okay. Anyway, let's see. What's up, Ray? Excited to see what the transfer portal will bring to help fill some of the open scholarships since the last few seasons. Strong talent has arrived. Yeah. I think Illinois is going to, again, do really well in the transfer portal. Again, they got Marcus Domask in the transfer portal, and he ended up being like their second best player this year, ended up being way better than I think anyone expected. Yeah, I'm excited for what they can do in the transfer portal. Z Paulson, I'll remember this team winning their Super Bowl in a meaningless Big Ten tournament. The Big Ten tournament's not meaningless, bro. That's a banner that they're going to raise, bro. All right. What's up, Steve? To be the man, you got to beat the man. So had to play UConn at some point. Yep, I think that's a response to the person talking about the seeding. Again, like, I'm fine with the seeding. Like, I get the fact that they got as far as they did in that part of the bracket. Pretty impressive. Let's see. Matt, Underwood needed to treat this similar to a Purdue matchup. I absolutely agree. UConn had their big guy guarding Rodgers, so when Illinois was on offense, he didn't have to guard Rodgers outside of 5 feet. Allowed UConn to play 5-on-4. Needed to have 5 shooters on the floor at all times for spacing. Yep. Absolutely agree. Mo, I don't really understand your conspiracies related to DGL and his mom, man. Like, for fuck's sake, man. I'm Thanks for being here. That's all I can say. Thanks for being here, man. Fighting Illini 23. Okay, whatever. Just be positive about amazing season, breaking records and whatnot. More positive than negative from the season. And I think that's pretty much what I'm trying to say. Like, the fact that they got to the Elite Eight is mightily impressive considering expectations coming into this year, I think, for most fans. So I think next year, talking about DGL, Mo, I think DGL is going to get a real opportunity to, he's going to have a bigger role. I don't know what he can develop into. I love his attitude. What he tweeted right after the game was awesome. Said he's definitely coming back. I'm pretty excited about what his potential could be. I'm intrigued to see what Sincere Harris does. I think they have to there's a certain technicality with dome mask. Illinois would shoot their shot on that. I forget how the actual term. It's like a waiver or something like that, but who knows? Again, you guys can check and tell me, but what else? I think Amani Hansberry will have a bigger role next year, obviously. And then you got the recruiting class coming in. And I think as far as transfer portal, Underwood killed it this year in the transfer portal. So, and honestly, it's not even just this year. He's done it every year. Now, 2 years ago or last season, obviously he didn't put the right guys together because that team had so much turmoil off the court. But as far as talent, he's been really good at bringing in talent through the transfer portal. So I expect more of that. And, I have no idea what to expect for next year's team, but they're going to need a star scorer. AJ Storr is a guy that's been linked to Illinois, it feels like, for months now. So maybe, he was once a recruit, so we'll see. But yeah, I didn't really want to talk too much about that just because I'm not ready to really talk about it yet, but that's just my 2 cents on that. Anyway, so where are we? 36 minutes in. Favorite moments from the season. I don't know. I listed some. I think going to Wisconsin and winning there was huge. I think Illinois won 8 straight against Wisconsin now, which is something that I just wasn't used to for a really long time. Their win over FAU at MSG was fun. Pounding Mizzou, considering how well Mizzou has played against them in recent years. I don't care how bad Mizzou ended up being this year. I feel like they should beat Mizzou every year just because they're a better program than Mizzou. I thought overall the season was one that we're going to remember for a long time. I think anyone who's looking at the season in some sort of negative fashion, I think that you are looking at this program as a must-make a Final Four or bust every season. And I think you're just setting yourself up for failure for doing that. I really do. And that doesn't mean that they shouldn't strive to try to go Final Fours every year. That doesn't mean that you can't just, hope for that. I'm just saying that having level-headed expectations is going to save yourself from being fucking pissed. So, I think that there are going to be more deep March runs for Illinois in the future. I don't know about next year just because I don't know how this roster is going to look, but I think in terms of how this season played out, they are definitely setting themselves up to, attract more people. I think, I talked about in the last show about we were comparing, Io and Terrence, and you look at how Io kind of he helped build a little piece to the program and its growth. And I think Terrence did that this year on top of Coleman. When they go with recruits, you can look at Coleman, a guy who stayed for 4 years and helped win one Big Ten regular season 1 year, won 2 Big Ten tournament titles, and then this year going to the Elite Eight. So you can use him as a way to bring in regular recruits that, you want to hopefully stay for multiple years. I think Marcus Domask and Terrence also are just great examples for the transfer portal as well. As far as recruiting, I think Illinois is in really, really, really good spot, right? So that's kind of the biggest probably pro from this entire season. Obviously the biggest thing that kind of just, it's I guess you could call it a dark cloud, is this whole off the court stuff with Terrence, and we'll see how it plays out. He can finally go and deal with that, I guess. I think that hearing is in May. I don't know. Don't quote me on that. I'm not sure, but that's the next biggest thing for him. I think he's going to get drafted in the first round. If all that clears, I think Terrence is a first round pick. Coleman probably a second rounder. And I'll be rooting for them in the pros, right? So, and that's another good thing that those two will, if they get drafted, that just makes Illinois' program look even better. So, I think that I'm not saying we should believe that, everything's going to go perfect and we're going to get to that Final Four next year. I'm just saying that, like, if you care, again, depending on your expectations, depending on what you want in terms of what you want Illinois to be, or what do you want Illinois to, do in the next 10 years, right? What do you want Illinois to do in the next 10 years? I would like to be one of the top 2 to 3 teams in the Big Ten every year. Right now, it's not even a question. It's Illinois and Purdue at the top of the Big Ten. There's no question. There's no better programs in the Big Ten than Illinois and Purdue. Purdue clearly ahead of Illinois, have gone to multiple second weekends in recent years under Matt Painter. He's made the tournament all but 4 different seasons. They're going to the Final Four finally. They're finally getting over the hump, going to the Final Four and have a chance to win a national title. And then Illinois, no one has more Big Ten victories the last 5 years than Brad Underwood. I know people are tired of hearing it, but I'm going to continue to say it because it's true, A. And B, many, many, many programs would love to have that, would love to be in that scenario, to have that stat next to their coach's name. Many other programs would love to have that, right? When you think about some of the other programs in the Big Ten, like entering this season, Michigan State had higher expectations than Illinois. I didn't think they deserved to make the tournament. They end up winning their first round matchup, and then they get cooked by UNC. So was I completely wrong about that? I guess a little bit, since they did win a game. But again, they had higher expectations than Illinois entering this year, and they really didn't live up to them. I do think that Michigan State just all around hasn't been very good the last, at least handful of years. I think Illinois is ahead of them the last 5 years. I think Illinois is ahead of Iowa. I think Illinois is ahead of Michigan, clearly ahead of Michigan, even before this year. I think Illinois is ahead of Wisconsin. Like, these are all these schools I just named, before the last 5 years, they were light years ahead of Illinois. So you've built a nice foundation, and now, of course, yes, we need more deep March runs. So what I would like over the next 10 years is more second weekends, more chances to play in the Elite Eight, Final Four, whatever. Yes, that is my expectations moving forward. You finally got the monkey off your back. You got to a Sweet 16, and now, to me, it really is all about getting as many deep March runs as you can get and Big Ten titles. Like, that's how it was in the early 2000s when I was a kid, and then there's just that era after the 04-05 team. You had a few more good teams, but towards the end of the Weber era and then the Gross era, none of that was happening. So again, I'm wanting, I guess what I'm saying is I just want sustained success, which we've had for 5 years. I just want it to continue, but with more March success. You did it this year. Can you do it again next year? Can you go deep again next year? Can you find yourself back in the Elite Eight next year or in the Sweet 16 next year? I think, honestly, though, I think that is valid and good, like at least baseline good expectations to have. It's so hard to win a national title. So hard. UConn might win back-to-back titles for the first time since Billy Donovan and Joakim Noah did at Florida. Joakim Noah played a whole NBA career and has been retired for a few years now. Billy Donovan's not even coaching college basketball. It's been a long time since those teams at Florida did what they did, right? So it's not something that happens all the time. All credit to Dan Hurley. All credit to their entire program. That program was kind of down in the dumps too until they came back to the Big East. I know they won that one random title in the mid 2010s, but I mean, obviously UConn is a better program than Illinois. And but either way, like the point that I'm getting at is that as Illini fans, I think expecting deep March runs is fair. I think that if they don't get there, then there's room for criticism, there's room to complain, there's room to whatever, right? Next year again with all these questions on the roster as we sit here right now, sure, it's hard to project that, but it feels like every year they're like reloading and trying to win Big Ten titles, right? So we'll see what they do in the transfer portal, and we'll see how this recruiting class comes in and develops and stuff like that. But again, like I think as Illini fans, we should be really excited. Again, they weren't supposed to be here in this game on Saturday. I'm sorry, like they just that wasn't the expectation, I think, for any fan this year. So they were playing with house money on Saturday, and unfortunately, it didn't pan out their way. At this point, I want to raise my expectations a little higher overall for sure, and that's what I'm doing. I'm expecting to be in a second weekend team consistently for years to come, man. For years to come. So we'll see what happens. And again, I'm excited. So I guess to close, before I get out of here, I just, I want to give a shout out to some of the guys on the team. Like, Terrence was so fun to watch this year. And I've been getting shredded on social media for having any kind of support for him at all. And that is what it is. Everyone should know my stance on that entire situation. You're not going to stop me from being a fan though. So it is what it is, but he had arguably the greatest season for an Illini ever. The fact that I was sitting here debating it just a few nights ago. I'm not going to let this game against UConn completely cancel that out. I really do truly believe he is, I think you can at least argue him being on the Mount Rushmore for Illinois basketball. He's one hell of a player. And he was so fun to watch this year. We'll get another shout out to Dane Danger. His postseason run was incredible. Big questions for him. Is he going to transfer or not? I'm sure him and Brad and the rest of the staff will have, some long conversations. Will they continue to play the way that they played this year? If so, I think Dane might be on his way out just because he wants a real opportunity to play real minutes. And I don't blame him for that. Coleman Hawkins, 4-year player, hell of a run at Illinois. I won't say I was always a defender. I will say that this year I became definitely a big defender of him, especially once December hit and he was healthy. He was definitely the type of player that if he was on your team, he was easy to love. And if he wasn't on your team, he was easy to hate. And that's why I was always a defender and always a fan. I know Illini fans grew very frustrated of him over his time. He's never going to have his name in the rafters or anything like that. But I do think when he comes back to Champaign and they put him on the big video board or whatever, he will get a standing ovation just because I felt like he played his heart and soul out for the program. And he loved Illinois. And as a fan, that's all I can ask for. Right. And then finally, I'm going to give a shout out to Brad for finally doing what so many fans wanted to see him do. Again, this game against UConn, not his best effort as far as a coach, but Illinois is not here without him, man. And I'm going to continue to defend him, and I'm going to continue to go to bat for him because, as Lyndon says in the chat, Brad put this program back on the map. And again, I'm raising my expectations for next year and for years to come. But, for him to help get Illinois to this point, to be one of the last 8 teams to keep playing, was special. And the water gun fights in the locker room after those 2 wins against Duquesne and Iowa State, and how he just goes to war for his players is something that I truly love about him. And he's just a hard-nosed dude who he's just, for me, he's a guy that I'm willing to go to war for. So those are my shout outs as far as the team. As far as the show, I just want to shout out all y'all who've been on YouTube, or if you've been listening on Spotify. I've been checking the listens on the audio version, and it's not as a big giant crowd of y'all, but I'm assuming most of y'all are here on YouTube, and I just want to give y'all a shout out, and I appreciate y'all. Year one of this show, and we manifested an Elite Eight run. Maybe it was because of that. Maybe it's because I took a picture with Brad Underwood outside Wrigley Field last summer after the Morgan Wallen concert, and that's what manifested this season. I don't know. I'm going to talk myself into whatever I want to believe. But in all seriousness, the show wouldn't be as fun as it is without y'all, and I really do appreciate y'all. And I guess goals for next year: A, get like some opening music, right? I need some opening music. All right. B, find a co-host, because this show would be better with someone else talking besides me. So those are the 2 goals: find another co-host and add some music to this show. And C, keep growing. Those are the 3 goals. All right. So this is officially season 1 of From Beyond the Paign, and I appreciate y'all again for being here and being supporters of this show, or CHGO, or me, or whatever reason, however the hell you found me. I really do appreciate y'all. So this show will obviously be taking a break for a while since baseball season has begun, and my full-time job is in full gear, and I have been exhausted during this March run while preparing for the baseball season. So I'm actually pretty excited to not do this show for a while. However, when Illinois makes some transfer portal news, or some news out of Illinois comes out, or something about the Terrence Shannon stuff happens, I'll definitely be hopping on here as soon as I can to, react to some of that stuff. So definitely don't leave. We'll be back. And basketball season in some ways is just right around, because the older I get, I feel like every year just passes by. So again, this is an Illinois basketball podcast. So if you're into Illinois football, that ain't me, man. I watch Illinois football for like 2 weeks out of the year, and then they decide to suck and I can't take them anymore. So I'm not here for that. But if we're talking Illinois hoops, I'm here for it, man. So looking forward to next year, looking forward to years to come, looking forward to more fun post games and angry post games where we all just irrationally yell at each other. So before I get out of here, let's read a few comments, I suppose. Let's see. Matt says, thanks, Cody, for your post games. Looking forward to a lot more bat chugs after Cubs wins this summer. Absolutely. I sure hope so. I'm hoping for at least 88 more of them. Lyndon says, sucks that we were in the same bracket as UConn. I truly believe we would have beat anyone else except for them. I mean, if you want me to complain about the locate, like the spot of the bracket, sure. I mean, I think if they would have got another opportunity against Tennessee, like, sure, right? Or if who else? If they would have been how wild would it have been if they put them in the same bracket as Purdue, right? Like, eventually perhaps having to do round 3 with Purdue in the Elite Eight, like that. I mean, they put us in the same bracket as Northwestern. I know that's not the same, but imagine if somehow, some way, Illinois and Northwestern would have met up, and I think it would have been the Elite Eight as well. Like, that would have been crazy. So I in that aspect, Lyndon, I agree. Like it would have been nice to be able to play Alabama or Clemson, right? But it is what it is. I still, again, Illinois was kind of gifted in this bracket anyway. Didn't have to play BYU, got to play 2 double-digit seeds, and they took care of business while there were some teams that weren't able to do that. Auburn, for example. And whatever, the teams that all lost to freaking NC State, 10 seed, going to the Final Four. What a run for those guys, right? So I'm going to celebrate those all I want. All right. Jay says, I'd be shocked if UConn doesn't win at all. They're so much better than anyone else. All I know is that I'm rooting for UConn against Purdue because I think that'll be the best game, and it'll be the best game that for college basketball for people to enjoy. I would love to see Donovan Clingan versus Zach Edey. Admittedly, if we got that, I probably would root for Purdue just because I'm such good friends with my guy Greg Braggs from Boilers of the Stands, and also I'm one of those guys who roots for the Big Ten, and I'm so tired of having to defend this conference. So that said, too, the conference did really well in the tournament this year, right? I didn't see any tweets this year saying that Big Ten was overrated. You had 2 Big Ten teams in the Elite Eight this year. So overall, good stuff for the Big Ten, right? For considering how bad the conference was this year. Maybe it's because since the conference was so bad this year, it didn't feel like it was a freaking battle every freaking night. That's what I usually say whenever the conference is good and then they fizzle out early in the tournament, right? So I'm going to push that narrative for the next 6 months. All right. It's been an hour, so I'm done yapping at my MacBook Air's camera. Again, thank you all for hanging out for the therapy session tonight. It was a fun one. And again, any news comes out, I will be back breaking it down, reacting, whatever, interested in people's thoughts and all that stuff. So again, hit that like button on your way out. Subscribe if you're new here. All your support means a lot, and I appreciate it. So until next time, guys, I hope y'all have a great summer. I'll see you here for other things related to my YouTube channel if you're a baseball fan. Until then, though, ILL.